Hello there, and welcome back to episode 100 of Inside the Vault, a Carolina Panthers podcast. I am your host, Ryan Smith, and we are recapping the 20-9 Monday Night Football loss in San Francisco. The Panthers fall 20-9 last night on Monday Night Football to the San Francisco 49ers, improving to 8-4 on the year, while the Panthers fall to 6-6. I'll get to the good, the bad, and ugly, as Julian Council, our friend over at Locked On Panthers, likes to call it. But first, let's go over the stats. 23 first downs to 12 in favor of the 49ers. Total plays run 70 from the 49ers, just 43 from the Panthers. So essentially doubled up the Panthers in that category. 340 total yards for the Niners, 230 for the Panthers. Total drives 10-9 in favor of the Niners. Passing yards 193 for San Francisco, 161 for Carolina. Rushing yards 147 for the Niners, 69 for the Panthers. Panthers were 0 for 2 in the red zone, while the 49ers were 2 for 3. Panthers had 4 penalties for 30 yards and just 2 penalties for 6 yards for the San Francisco 49ers. 3 turnovers for the Niners, 3 Brock Purdy interceptions, and then 2 turnovers, 2 interceptions by Bryce Young for Carolina. Time of possession, 15 more minutes in favor of the 49ers, 37 minutes and 42 seconds versus 22 minutes and 18 seconds. So let's talk about the good first. The Panthers came to play on defense. J.C. Horn, 2 interceptions before leaving with a concussion. Mike Jackson, also an interception, all on Brock Purdy. Let's be honest, that the Panthers only getting 3 points off the Purdy interceptions alone, I think, if you want to go there, I think might have decided this game. The Panthers needed to get at least 3 points on that first and goal from the 2-yard line, and Bryce gives it right back to the 49ers with the John Brown interception. Just unacceptable from Bryce Young. Unacceptable right now from his point in his career. He's had great moments this year, don't get me wrong. That interception in the first quarter, perhaps the worst of his career. That play itself, and I really just the emotional jolt from the defensive takeaway that led to that series. It's like, oh, why, Bryce? It's a testament to a lot of guys on defense. Like I said, this is the good that they stayed in this game despite those turnovers by Bryce Young. I did feel like the Panthers got a lot of holding calls last night that separated on offense that just killed a lot of drives. 49ers, conversely, only had 2 penalties, and you could argue they could have been called for a lot more holding calls than they were, but, you can't blame the refs, obviously, on that. That's just the nature of the NFL. But yes, starting with the defense, Derek Brown plugging holes up the middle, J.C. Horn, Mike Jackson both picking off Brock Purdy passes. Linebackers were flowing through the football. Christian McCaffrey, I want to say his longest run was I want to say about a 12-yard run on that touchdown that he did score a touchdown run for McCaffrey. And I think his longest pass was, I want to say, 10 yards. So 3.5 yards per carry for Christian McCaffrey last night, 142 total yards for him, 89 rushing yards, 53 passing yards. The Panthers did their job on Christian McCaffrey last night, facing him for the first time, if we're being honest. The defense did their job overall on him. Intercepted Brock Purdy 3 times. They were flying over the football. This defense played very inspired. They played very well. But when it comes to, and then the injuries, as I said, J.C. Horn left with a concussion. Claudin Cherilus left with a concussion as well. Chris Barnes was evaluated for a concussion. Corey Thornton left with an ankle injury. So many injuries last night, especially on defense. But the crucial turnovers really, like I said, the playoff chances, the coaching choices really, at the end of the day, based on last night's performance, leave a lot to be desired. I'll get into that in just a second. But injury issues in the secondary, in the linebacking core, like I said. Crucial game against the Los Angeles Rams coming up this Sunday at Bank of America Stadium, where the Panthers very well likely might be going into their bye at 6-7 before facing off in New Orleans coming off the bye. But the defense, I thought, did their job in this game. They showed out, and if our offense performed better, they very much could have won this game. I'm going to say they would have won this game. I mean, George Kittle, 2 catches for the Niners. That's it. Christian McCaffrey, yes, he had some damage, but overall, they kept him afloat, intercepted Brock Purdy 3 times. It just maddening, inconsistent of how this team is. Let's switch to the offensive side of the ball. Um, oh, Missed red zone opportunities. The first interception from Bryce. We get the interception. We get into the red zone. We get down to the 2 yard line. Instead of running it with Chuba Hubbard or Dowdle, interception by Bryce Young, throwing the ball, forcing it to Mitchell Evans. After, honestly, I think Bryce could have run it in himself there, but instead chose to throw it to Mitchell Evans where it got picked off by Johnny Brown. The second interception by Bryce Young, which was in the fourth quarter, Tedero McMillan was clearly being held, and the referees missed that one. The broadcasters said so themselves. That's just an unfortunate play. Yes, Bryce's interception is going to go. That went down as his second interception, but I don't blame him on that one. Tedero McMillan was clearly getting held, and there was no call, and that should have been called, and that should have been a first down. But the first one on Bryce, like I said, was probably the worst of his career in the end zone. Either run the ball yourself in Bryce, or just throw it away if you're not comfortable running in it. That situation, just throw it away. Don't try to force it to Mitchell Evans. So that was just really unfortunate. Questionable play calling. Canales last night just did not, in my opinion, give our offense a lot of chances to succeed in this game. 9 carries between Chuba Hubbard and Rico Dowdle. We are a run first team that sets up the play action pass. That is unacceptable, especially in prime time when people are watching. And against the 49ers pass rush that hasn't honestly been getting home that much this season. Just unacceptable from the rushing attack. The passing game reverted to their early season issues, drops by the receivers. We saw one nice play in the third quarter. The Panthers got a touchdown from Bryce Young to Tedero McMillan to make it 17-9. They did go for 2 after the unsportsmanlike penalty on the Niners, but ended up not running it in, chose to pass it to Jalen Coker, which was incomplete, and so they only left. They took a point off the board there with that 2-point conversion. Running back rotation, I still think Chuba and Dowdle need to get more carries together. But really, Canales last night did not give the Panthers a chance to get into a rhythm, to get into a flow. But beyond Dave Canales is Bryce Young's inconsistent play. You have plays like you have against the Falcons where he is dialing up and he is playing really good football. And then you've got just about everything else. Let's go into. I mean, listen. To be honest, a couple of other podcasts have said this. It's like Bryce and Canales are like oil and water. They just don't mix well together. I think it's both Bryce and Dave, whose partnership together, they're not performing well consistently. And that's the maddening thing about this team. There's weeks that it's great. The Dallas game, both Atlanta games. There's ones where it was just flat out bad. That is the New England game. That was the first game against New Orleans. That was last night in Santa Clara. And then there's games where it's mid, as the kids say, or fine. Okay. That's Jets, Miami. And it's like, even if the Panthers come out next week and have another good offensive showing, it's not the full piece of work. Consistency can't be forged, and the chemistry is simply just fleeting at best. There needs to be changes on this offensive infrastructure. We know that. Even if the Panthers make the playoffs, or even if they don't make the playoffs, that's just part of evolving in the NFL. At the end of the day, the Panthers have done a lot this year that they've grown behind the scenes. We've improved in our run defense. We've improved in our talent across the board, both offensively and defensive side of the ball. This rookie class has been fantastic. Development and coaching has improved. But at the end of the day, we have to figure out a way to bring this together and consistently put a consistent product on the field each and every time. And that is what is so frustrating for this Panthers team. We are on schedule, young team, young offensive coaches. The front office has the right people. We need to continue to get talent. But what I can't unsee It's just how inconsistent Bryce Young has been. His highs are really good, and his lows are really low. And that is something that has to be figured out by this Panthers team this offseason, regardless whether they make the playoffs or they don't. This game last night had every opportunity for the Panthers to get the win last night, and they came up short simply due to the defense. Played the game of their life, and the offense couldn't pick up the pieces. The offense could not pick up the pieces. Um, we also had zero sacks last night and just two. Um, we have two quarterback hits over the last 10 quarters, I want to say. So we're still staying competitive. That's a good thing. Bam Martin Scott, number 57, who came in for Claude and Cherilus on defense. He was playing his butt off last night. Um, so there were bright spots, especially on defense last night, for this team. But really, if I'm just calling a spade, our quarterback play was much to be desired last night. Um, some of it was play design with Canales. Some of it was poor decisions, poor throws with on Bryce. It really is a week to week league. It really is, and it is what it is there. But that's what it is. Um, Last night was the lowest amount of carries for running backs for the Panthers since 2003. Yes, 2000, I'm sorry, 2023. The Panthers are 0 in 10. 0 in 10 in those type of games. And for a team that is run first and then play action off of that, we cannot afford to have those type of moments. That it just is what it is on that. But yeah, the Panthers waste a collection of opportunities. Our defense could not have provided much better opportunity for Bryce Young and the offense to do their part. Poor execution, poor mental errors. The mental errors being the holding penalties that wiped out at least three drives. And then offensive imbalance. I believe it was 10-3 in the third quarter, late in the third quarter, and we just abandoned giving Rico Dowdle the ball. The same running back, Rico Dowdle, who's allowed 130 or more rushing yards in total, and grand total of 6 carries for 38 yards, averaging 6.3 yards per attempt. 9 rushing attempts for our running backs in a game that finished 20-9. Sometimes a stubborn commitment to the running attack has worked out well for the Panthers. We need to get back to that approach, in my opinion. Yes, Young can throw it for 448 yards and 3 touchdowns like he did against Atlanta. We saw that. But at the end of the day, there needs to be more consistency overall. And we all know that. And so where does that leave us? I kind of combined the bad and the ugly, and so that's kind of where it is. So kind of to summarize things, the good, the defensive performance last night, despite 20 points allowed, plenty of opportunities to win this game. The bad, the injuries, Bryce Young's first interception, and then the ugly, abandoning the run after 9 carries, and um, just poor mental errors and execution that prevented the offense from having a more consistent day. That is essentially the ugly. Panthers' old friend Christian McCaffrey last night, third running back in NFL history to have 50 plus receiving yards in at least 50 career games. It was good to see CMC out there doing his thing. But like I said, the Panthers were able to mostly take care of CMC. The one rushing touchdown for 12 yards. But outside of that, his longest catch was 10 yards, and his longest run technically was 12 yards on that touchdown. He even fumbled the ball before that third Brock Purdy interception. Chris Crampy even fumbled the ball for the Panthers and allowed, but we couldn't get back on it, and that turned into a 16-yard rush technically when the Panthers did not recover, but the 49ers did. And that was their longest play of the night at that point. Um, anyway, At the end of the day, and even I could keep going on the offense. Xavier Legette had some nice plays. Jalen Coker had some nice plays. Then Xavier Legette's situational awareness leaves a lot to be desired with the play in which he came back in bounds and was the first person to touch the ball on the legal catching. Um, anyway, just so many plays in this game in which you are simply scratching your head with poor execution. That is really the summary of this game. Ryan Fitzgerald missing a 57-yard field goal towards the end of the game to try to get it back to a one-score game before I believe the Panthers would have probably kicked onside, but I'm not going to blame Fitzgerald for that. Um, at the end of the day, we're still near the top of the division. We are still in the hunt. We got to regroup, and it's a short week. The Rams are coming to town this coming Sunday at Bank of America Stadium. It's going to be a very tough game, especially if J.C. Horn is out with a concussion. But at the end of the day, let's be honest. This was one of Dave Canales and his offensive coaching staff's worst game, considering the stage, considering what was at stake. Players didn't execute. Turnovers, drop passes, holding penalty. The offense was not ready. It is one game, but it was a big one. But it's simply a week-to-week league. The defense was outstanding and gave this team a chance to win. The Panthers showed us who they are. A team that's not quite ready yet for the big stage. That's okay. Some individual players like J.C. Horn who are ready. The Panthers are floundering around a 500 football team. It is what it is. And then when it comes to Bryce Young, couple of confusing plays, and like I said, with that red zone interception, he was trying to execute plays that were called. He avoided sacks, used his legs. There were some accurate passes that were dropped, and then there was the nice pass to McMillan that did result in the touchdown. Um, this his and the offense's floor and ceiling is still way too low. The highs are absolutely elite, and the lows are just absolutely catastrophically low. But there's another opportunity next coming this Sunday, a short week against the LA Rams coming to town. Matthew Stafford, the leading MVP candidate right now. Um, Shout out to Mike Clay over at the NFL, where he said it feels like the Panthers have left about 47 points on the field tonight, and I totally agree on that. Based on the execution, the red zone, the execution errors, and just yeah. Anyway, check out, can you rate, review, and subscribe? Panthers falling to the 49ers 20-9 on Monday Night Football. Keep it here for my preview of the Rams Panthers coming up later this week. We'll have someone from the Rams community on to help preview that game here on Inside the Vault. Episode 100. This has been your Panthers 49ers recap from Sunday Night Football. Panthers lose 20-9 in San Francisco, falling to 6-6 on the season. We will see you back later this week for Rams Panthers. We'll see you then.